uplifting Christmas tune, I thought, because it's still Christmas. In fact, it's that time between Christmas and New Year, you know, that strange time where you don't really know what day it is, or at least I don't. I don't know if you feel that way. Hello, it's Anne Spencer here, and welcome to In Hindsight. Just before New Year, I thought I'd do another little podcast right up me motivation alley. Oh yeah, oh forget that anyway. So between the years, I think it's called Between the Years because not quite New Year yet, is it? As we sit just pending till the 6th of January when we all go back to work, most of us anyway. Yes, I don't really know how everybody else feels, but it is a bit awkward, isn't it? A bit confusing, that week pre-New Year's Eve when no one really knows what to do with themselves, quite frankly, if you're not working. I won't forget there's so many others working out there, darling. Of course there are, and thank you and well done, because it's a hard time. It's a hard time for many in more ways than one. Well, some folks are out there pretending to work. Let's not beat about the bush. But while others are free of all responsibilities until the next calendar year. But it's a weird time anyway, whatever your situation is. And usually not a very productive time, is it? It's just a time, stuff. Time is stuff you walk through and think if you can. And a period of 7 days where we all just vibe until the New Year's Eve, when we can get all dressed up again and pour a little glass of champagne or whatever takes your fancy and post a photo on Instagram or whatever else. But most of us have lost hope in the current year, do you think, and are looking for a fresh start, especially last year, 2021, you know, when we were sort of, can you call it post-COVID? We're still running around putting masks on and taking masks off, trying to avoid people being responsible as we should be. But in the meantime, we do try to create resolutions, New Year resolutions that our future selves are most likely to break. Again, I'm speaking for myself here, but you know what I'm saying. Or we put together an end of the year recap, you know, reflect on our life and post it all on social media. Yeah. Detailing either how wonderful or disastrous the last 365 days were. But it's all funny, isn't it? Let's face it, we all cope in different ways. And there's nothing wrong with that, darling. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's hard when motivation has reached an all-time low. Oh, yes, it has. In fact, I just thought I'd use this little period of time, the in between the years time, to just reflect a little and maybe harness in what we intend to do so we can all sort of take that together. I know myself, I've got a few little things I want to be doing and changing. That might not be all that easy, let's face it. But fixing little things in our lives, you know, to benefit us, there's no harm in that. It doesn't matter how small, just little things, that's all. And by that I mean, like, you know, just feeling good about what you're doing, about what you're managing, and that's all. And don't get too OCD about it, you know, you don't want to get stuck denying what you're worth, lest we forget to not deny that. And it's fun to have fun. It's fun to have fun. It's fun to do things wrong, is what I say. Get it right, get it wrong. It's right to be wrong sometimes. We all know that. Remember that. Yeah, right to be wrong. Like that. Oops, that went wrong. Well, there's a challenge. Help and grow with me. I'll get there. Allow yourself to consider a few things of what it is you want. But first of all, before you decide what you really want, maybe it's a case of sitting back, recognizing what you do have already. Oh yeah, and nurturing that, acknowledging it, and then adding to it those things you want or whatever else out with it, and you'll see that grow. Mark my words. Yeah, start off like that. Okay? So let's get down on it, shall we? Get down on it. Anyway, ask yourself the question, first of all. You know, the quest for meaning. What motivates you, you know? Are you being who you really are? Easy question, isn't it? But we do need to spend less time on thinking how others want us to be. Would that be true? Would I be telling the truth? Anyway, as I say, that is what I want to cover, but I do digress. Bloody hell. I suppose it's quite a difficult one, that really, who are you? Who are you? And anytime anyone asks that, if you were to be asked or work out, we stop, don't we? Or at least I do. I think, who am I? What is it all about? But dissecting things and situations in your life, it's not really a case of, it's nice to be able to put yourself in a comfortable place personally, just in your own mind. That's what it's all about, and that's the main thing. And setting boundaries, as we spoke about in the past, is important. It's important to relationships as well. Our own personal limits for acceptable behaviour, just for example, to people around us. And the quality of all our relationships depends on them. And that's just one subject on the matter in terms of relationships. Like every little topic, you can dissect it. But whilst we're just on the one topic of just sort of getting yourself into a good in-between-the-years place in the mind, then we'll just stick with the one thing, it's easy to expect. I suppose we make comparisons far too much, and which is why suddenly we then become something that we think we should be, or other people expect us to be. And it really doesn't matter in the end, but that's when you're younger. It matters to be able to fit in, as we always think that we feel we should. And actually, well, we do. That's socialisation, isn't it? God, I do digress. But you know what I mean. When we start looking at other people's accomplishments or what they're doing, what they work as, what they have, is that the level of success? And if we don't have it, are we successful? It can't be relative. It can be relative, but it can't be compared because of the uniqueness of what we are as individuals. Oh. Now that's complicated. That's complicated. It is complicated, actually, if you really do dissect and think about all the psychology of it. But it starts very simple, and that's where you got to begin. That's what this is all about. We don't want to go completely into all the difficult, complicated things in between years, between Christmas and New Year, do we? No, this is the problem. And then we think, well, the meaning, all that meaningful stuff and mindful stuff, can I actually do that? Yeah, you can. Start small. And the small thing is, be good to yourself. That's it. That's not big. Just be good to yourself. And no, it's not selfish. It's not selfish at all. Looking after number one may seem a little bit of a selfish attitude, but if you don't, you'll be in no state, as you've heard it before, to look after anyone else. I'll tell you that. And how you care for yourself is the foundation on which you build your life. Now that's simple, and you only have to take one little step to caring about yourself on a day-to-day basis. And it's hard to knock out everything, but then a little bit of meditation comes into that, and by that, go out and walk down the street. Walk round the block. Preferably, if you have a little park, walk round the park. But if not, just get out in that air. And my God, that wind that we have here today will blow something out. Blow it out, blow it out. But being good to yourself, of course, darlings. Are you being something for someone else? But overall, that would then, you'd able to recognise, are you treating yourself with the tolerance and the kindness that hopefully you're showing others, or that you would wish for others? Because if you do neglect yourself and don't take care of yourself, what does that actually say then? What does that say about how you treat anyone around you? That is a reflection. So get it first right for you. It's how you care for yourself that ultimately will determine the quality of your life and obviously everybody else around you. So in order to truly give to others, if that's what you want to do, but that's what we do. Whether you're a mother, a daughter, a father, an aunt, uncle, cousin, whatever it is. Friends, countrymen, remember this. In order to truly give to them and everyone, you must first have as much as you need. Get that in there. Get that in your head. Sorry, I'm trying to get it into my own head there. In doing all that, of course, We all know those certain things, but it's always nice to reiterate it again. But being present, that's what everyone is saying. The Buddha's question, it's true, being present, because that present time will then be a memory that you will reflect on with, hopefully, some nice feeling. But making peace with your past, well, that's a biggie, because that is making your present time a lot easier, isn't it? And that's one of the very important things that we have to do. You live in the present, and you don't want your life clouded with any too much analysis or regret over past events. And I know that because I have done that. And, periodically I do that. And I suppose everybody's different, but I feel that would be necessary, because if it's coming in there, it's a case of just accepting it and letting it go again. Not dissecting it too much, because you're dissecting it in present day. When you've done something in the past, it's an entirely different event and emotion of when you did it. And various events came into play that you might forget. So we always sometimes, here's an oxymoron. It's not really, it's just stupidity. We do tend to look back on certain things that we might regret, and that's all we see. We don't take in all the conditions that we were under doing them, and then we just put it down to, I shouldn't have done that. Well, no, that's wrong. Don't say that. We are all survivors. We're all survivors in life. And we have to look at that. It can't all be good. It can't be. It wouldn't do for it to be easy, would it? Then you would never grow. There's another trail of thought to go down, a big path in that one. Thread on. But like I say, survivors in life, all our childhoods, of the mistakes, the disappointment, the guilt, grief, and not living the happily ever after, eh? But that is from the Disney World, which is why we have a Disney World, because it is nice to watch, isn't it? But, despite all that, we are here and now, and making peace with the past is so very important, because when we're not burdened by unresolved matters, we can be a lot more present and a better future then. And just like other life transformations, it is down to you and no one else. And that's just it. So how on earth can we make comparisons in certain things that we see other people in their lives? It's focusing on yourself. It's focusing on yourself. And you are important. And when you do, things get that little bit easier and you become a lot more freer. You're open. And then you will see the difference. You don't even have to try. You will see the difference. People around you will benefit from you as well. I'm telling you. There is a lot of, I suppose there's a lot of reality checks, really, isn't it? We tend not to check ourselves too much, We can only do so much. We can only filter in enough. Otherwise, we might get a little bit upset. But when it comes to it, if you're taking yourself seriously and you're setting those boundaries, you will take that check, because that's taking responsibility. Taking responsibility isn't anything we really want to do lightheartedly and sometimes at all, because it can overwhelm us. But at the same time, and this was me listening to Jordan Peterson, if anybody else knows him out there, when the burden of responsibility is actually something that can help your mental health. I mean, obviously that's a wide scope of conversation going on there. But to simplify it for my little podcast, it's basically taking on a responsibility or something you don't want to do, even if it's something as small as, depending on who you are, like washing the car in the rain because it has to be done. You've done it. It's an achievement. You've just accomplished something. That's just the analogy that I'm using to feel that, well, I didn't really want to do that, but I took it on board and I've done it. You feel better for doing it and you've accomplished something. And it's just those small steps of doing that, very simple things. It's not like you've a cruise down the Nile or a plane to Exotica or bought yourself something glamorous, whatever the list of things might be, because it can't always be that way, and it's striving then for more of the material, instantaneous satisfaction than developing a sustainable mindset, enabling you to cope, taking on life when it's at its lowest ebb. And that's not easy, but you can do it because that's what we have to do. And it's understanding that. It's understanding that when things don't go to plan, it's easy to blame someone else. I don't know why, but instinctively you're like, well, if he hadn't done that, that wouldn't have happened. Well, and it depends on who you are. Sometimes people blame themselves too much, but it can be easy to blame other people. Letting go of blame and taking responsibility for the way your life turns out is, believe it or not, the greatest liberation, because it's all down to you. You've done it on your own terms. You've made the mistakes on your own terms. You'll continue to make those mistakes. Not the same ones, hopefully, but you'll learn from them. But there'll be other things too. That's why the challenge is on. That's why go forth and do something that frightens you. And you can only but fail. Nothing lost. At least you did it. Yes, that's it. It takes strength, and if you're out there, you're doing it, to realise that everything we do has a consequence. To take responsibility for our actions and to learn from our mistakes. Which is why, everything comes into it. Like meditation, your mental health is so important. Your nutrition, everything is rounded and balanced. Take control of that and you will benefit from that. It's tempting to blame everyone else, and blaming is really easy. Yeah, it's your bloody fault, mate. That's all your fault. But it keeps us in the role of the victim then, if we do. And that stops us from taking responsibility for our own lives. That's a fact, mate. That is a bloody fact. So I guess what I'm saying is what you have to do as well as taking responsibility, is you're taking responsibility of finding out what you're good at, your core strengths. That's what it is. Developing skills. Well, obviously something that you really enjoy, developing those skills. And that'll help you identify and use your core strengths as well. Probably highlight more of what you're good at when you start to really enjoy something, whatever it might be. If it's art or sewing or even riding a bike, whatever it is, there must be something. Playing an instrument, I can't play one. But, God, I'd love to. But, if there's something out there that floats your boat, you've got to take it. Actually, there's a lot of life coaches out there and they always ask the questions all the time. And we keep asking until eventually they can give a kind of comprehensive, truthful answer without embarrassment or any false modesty. And not only are there these core strengths, the talents that make you unique, they also have the potential to bring great fulfillment. So not only can you find your core strengths, but when you do, you can really master them and become great at them. And those talents, that's what make you unique. They also have potential to bring absolute great fulfillment. And I believe that. Because I've done it. I'm still moving forward though, there is no end. There's no end, darlings. Oops again, excuse the noises. I don't know what that is. It's my microphone. When you actually consider that everything that you have in your life is because you chose it, unless you are blaming somebody else for doing certain things, or not taking responsibility. And I'm the same, that for many years I don't suppose I took much responsibility. I just, especially in my younger years, you expect things just to come to you and then deal with them as they go. I suppose I did apply for various jobs that I went for when I was younger and got them and then moved forward in certain ways. But I was never really conscious of thinking, this is me making life decisions, that definitely I never did that. And I don't know if you can relate to that. You just sort of go with the flow half the time. Suddenly things are different in this life, our culture. You know, we can stop and recognise that there are people who do, obviously, take control and say, I'm wanting this. This is the career I want. I'm going for it. And they go. And everything they do is set. That's fair enough. I wasn't one of those people. But I'm becoming one of those people now. Setting goals, in other words, you know, because setting your own goals, well, I suppose they'll feed your most cherished ambition if you have one, especially if you're younger. But even if you're older, it's never too late. I will believe that. I will believe that indeed, because nearly everything, because your work, your hobbies, your friends, whatever it is, to some extent, your health as well. Your health are the culmination of life choices. In fact, more so now, we understand the certain nutrition and various things that we eat and choose to eat, looking after ourselves physically and consciously makes all the difference to our lifestyle. But perhaps if you can imagine a future, well, if you can, that's good, where all your desires are fulfilled. It's a nice feeling, that. And it's good to sort of just set your mind to that. It helps you carry forward. But before you can actually create whatever it is you want for your future, you have to set goals. You really do. Because without them, the future, as I've just said, chooses us. You know? No more is that happening. No more is that happening to me. No. I'm not having it, guys. I'm not having it. Join me on the quest. So with doing all that, if you take little steps at a time, although I've expanded on a lot, but quite if you simplify them, then you will expand your own horizons. That's what you will do. Make 2022, when it arrives, a year to remember by following the things that really call out to you as an individual. If you're listening to this, then you're obviously wanting something. And maybe a little bit of assistance, a little bit of inspiration is always good. Flipping in and out, if you like, to various little podcasts, there's no harm in that. And it boosts you if you're on a little journey, a self journey, just your own private one. It always is. It always is. Because too often the vision we do hold for ourselves and our lives remains stuck. It names stuck. It defaults. It's automatic pilot, isn't it? That's the things that happen. That's what's happening in this duration between Christmas and New Year, the in-between years. You're kind of stuck in an automatic pilot. You know things are going to change and you think you're grasping at it. I'm grasping at it. I don't. The future's going to change. I'm not prepared. You're prepared. You are prepared. You're just not believing it. You've defaulted back to some kind of habitual thought. That's what happens. And the new year comes around and we find ourselves saying exactly the same things that we did last year, all the hopes and the fears we have for the year ahead. And we do it every year. Most of us would love to explore new experiences, but don't really know where to start. So just start with small things, because there's so many other possibilities, and there is. That is how you choose your new direction, just by stopping a little bit still. Reflection, take this time to reflect, think slowly, walk outside if you need to clear your head, but recognising what you have. And if you have your health, that's a bloody massive, isn't it? And then we're working from there. You're working from there, small steps. That's it. And that time that you have, and you'll have the time, but it's believing it, isn't it? You can say all you want, like I said before. You can say all the positive words on the surface, and if it's just on the surface and you don't believe it, it's a waste of bloody time. You have to believe this. You have to believe in the goals you're setting, and the goals you're setting are possible, and you know that you can do it. You take that responsibility, you believe in yourself. The minute you take the responsibility, you'll start believing. Small steps. That's all I'm saying. Hopefully, I'm going to come back and maybe just extend on this little podcast, if we all enjoy it, just before New Year. Yes, just before 2022 comes, because that's where you're expanding your horizons. That's all it takes. That's all it takes, and it's all personal, lest you forget. Right, so before I go, just if you're on reflection of what I've just said, you can write a little list out about creating the boundaries we talked about, moving on and handling different things, taking responsibility and handling those different objectives. And that is a start. Writing a little list, a list of where you want to set those boundaries, where you want to move forward, what you're going to maybe just even do it down week by week, or where you want to be by the end of January sort of thing. But make those little lists. Have a small journal. You don't have to write pages and pages. And then at the end of the day, if there's one thing that you did that you wouldn't normally, write that down in your journal and you'll see a difference. That's good. Small things, darling. Whatever you daydream, for example, if you daydream about most often, make a note of that. You know, rainy day fantasies. Within reason, darling, within reason. Do you have a secret dream that you may be too embarrassed to share with anyone, but either that, because it seems far-fetched or something, or beyond your reach. But looking at how you might develop this interest would be a good place to start, just in your own little personal journal, you know. And sometimes what you choose to imagine can provide unexpected clues to what you hunger for now. Yeah. So write that all down. When was the last time you cried, for example? Make a note of those experiences that when something moved you, whether it was sorrow or whether it was joy. You know, too often we rely on our minds for inspiration, but what do you do next, you know? And you overlook the fact that our emotions are offering us information all the time, good or bad, about what is really important to us. We can learn a lot about our life. We'd really like to live from what we can't stand about our life right now, and to what we do love about our life right now. We can go in and out of those different things that we've got various responsibilities that we have to handle, and it doesn't maybe enlighten us too much, but that's the offsetting the balance there. You still have to do it. You still have to do it. So good luck on the little quest. I'm taking mine. And join me in the next 2 days. I'm definitely do this before Hogmanay. Just a short one. That should be good. So happy in-between years. And join me soon. Yeah, a happy in-between years. Bye for now.